All right, welcome back to the Board of Supervisors meeting. We are on, sorry. Welcome back. We move on to item 18.
Item 18, action item, building 1, introduce and waive first reading of an ordinance repealing Chapter 9.22 of Calaveras County Ordinance Code related to cannabis background clearance badges. 2, find ordinance not a project or exempt from CEQA. And 3, authorize a summary publication of the ordinance.
Thank you. Doug.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Doug Oliver, Chief Building Official. I want to start this item with something that I don't think you've heard from me yet, and that is an apology. There's some relevant information I should have put in this board memo, a couple of dates and some information that was shared between me and your board moving up to this meeting that probably would have helped knock down a few of the questions from the public and from members of your board. So I apologize for not providing that information in my haste to get this to you before the end of the year. It just slipped my mind, so I will endeavor to do more to be more detailed on matters as sensitive. That being said, what I'd like to do is briefly go through those items. As your board is aware, on September 12th of 2023, your board heard a presentation from the building department regarding the cannabis program, and in that was a question about what to do with the cannabis background clearance badges, and it was a sentiment of your board that I should bring this back to have it repealed. Now, what I didn't add to this document was that April of this year, we did bring it forward to your board, and it was voted down 3-2. However, on May 14th, your board expressed an interest to bring that back, and you directed me on that day to bring it back. While I was preparing to bring that back, however, we, in our daily inspections of those cannabis sites, identified a handful of bad actors, and we determined approximately 20% of the cannabis industry was out of compliance on several items. And I'm not talking about simply, a fire extinguisher being out of place or something like that. There were substantial issues. And so I I came to your board during staff announcements on July 13th and let your board know that we were going to give you monthly updates, and I didn't feel comfortable bringing anything to your board until such time as the cannabis industry demonstrated that they had a willingness to comply at a greater degree. Now, I did proceed with those monthly updates, and we did go out and do everything we could to encourage the cannabis industry. And I will say that the support of your board and also, to a large degree, the support of the good actors in the cannabis industry, we saw a huge turnaround in relatively short order. It took about 2 months, and I was able to send an email to your board September 20 of this year to identify that we've turned that around to approximately 2% out of compliance. Everyone else had gained substantial compliance, and I felt comfortable in moving forward. And in that time, we also identified a few other issues that were causing complications. We were able to begin reconvening our cannabis meetings to try and get a feel for what things we could bring to your board in the future. And at this point, I'd like to just give you some basic information. Cannabis badges currently, we have 1,025 that are currently badged. Now that was increased dramatically just in the last month because it was coming up on harvest season. And we had a lot of people that were employed by temporary labor companies from the Central Valley, which is kind of a shift from what we've seen 5 years ago. In order to be efficient and save money, the temporary help is being brought in from these companies, and they are there for short duration, a week, maybe 2, and they're back down the road to some agricultural commodity in the Central Valley. The hardship that we have determined based on direct communication with these folks is that these temporary organizations employ a lot of people who are under work visa or are seeking permanent legal status in the United States. And if they are seeking that legal status, if the federal government does a background check and finds that they are working in a commodity that is not legal federally, they may not be able to qualify for legal citizenship. Now, on the other side of that, you can still hire your labor, but those people just, they can't participate, so get somebody else. You could make that argument. However, this is America, and if you are seeking citizenship and you want to work in this industry, the argument could be made that you should be afforded that opportunity. That being said, I just want to say that ultimately, the only complaint that I've heard from the public is a worry about the quality of life. And the urgency ordinance, rightly so, highlighted a bunch of things that we should not do moving forward. And there was a lot of, it was a huge influx of people who were outside the county. It was essentially a gold rush. Everybody wanted to come in, everybody wanted to stake their claim. There was a lot of work going on ahead of the applications being approved. Huge difference from where we are now. The cannabis badges, I think, were necessary initially. Moving forward, it looks like the wiser decision from the board was limiting the amount of applicants. Because if you just do rough numbers and math, if you had 600 applications who were trying to break ground ahead of approval and they employ 5 people, you got 3,000 people who most of them are not going to be from this county. However, given the permit scheme that we have, we currently have 88. Let's round that to 100. With the economy right now and the price of that material, you're going to see maybe 2 to 3 employees, 2 of them being the owners of the businesses. Most of those are from this county, and many of them are employing people from this county. Now, once again, the seasonal work isn't from this county, but that's short duration, and then they're done. But if you look at those numbers, if you have 100 permits and you only have 3 employees, that's 300 people operating. So the difference is night and day as far as the volume of people from outside the county or the volume of potential issues in relation to crime, predominantly. So I don't see that the cannabis badges being removed is going to affect that substantially. I have talked to Sheriff Whiting briefly about this. She shares our previous sheriff's comments. They have no concerns about repealing this. And at this time, I'd ask if you have any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Sheriff, are you on board?
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment on it myself. I am not opposing the repeal of the ordinance. It has no effect on our ability to continue to investigate the illegal operations, which we will continue to do. Given the framework of the legal industry in our county and the regulatory authority of that industry falling under the Division of Cannabis Control, which does fall under the building department, they are best suited to tell us if the program is working and still needed or not. I did have several citizens reach out, and I will always have shared concern on quality of life issues, even if there are not criminal issues. We at the Sheriff's Office were big proponents of this badge program when we started, just as Doug outlined. That was when we were still trying to figure out the industry. We were flooded with things. We wanted to ensure that we had a way to regulate it, and that gave us that framework, and it was needed and it was useful at the time. The county has now had several years to work through that process. Although much of the regulation for the legal industry does fall under the Division of Cannabis Control and not with the Sheriff's Office, we are still, our marijuana enforcement team supervisors participate in the working group. So whenever any of these topics do come up regarding concerns or discussion on possible effects on the public safety in our county, we are still part of that. We are a stakeholder in those discussions. So we do regularly talk to Doug and the members of Cannabis Control about it. It's my understanding that much of the opposition that you may hear to repealing the ordinance is out of a lot of just concern and fear that if we do reduce the scrutinization on workers, it may attract some bad actors or criminals and think that they may have a better avenue to come up and become workers up here. So like I said, I do share in concerns, but we can't base everything we do on fears and on what-if scenarios with no evidence to back it up. So if people are going to break the law, they're going to do it regardless, and we will go after criminals that do so. So if any of that comes to fruition, I would just ask that the Division of Cannabis Control and my office will as well. If you guys repeal it today, we will closely monitor, and if there are any negative, unanticipated causations, that we bring this back before the board in 6 months and review it with amendments to further rectify it, much as we've had to do over the years of once we started the legal industry. Some things work, some things don't. We can't anticipate every causation of our decisions, but if that changes and we're seeing a negative effect on our citizens, then we bring it back before the board. So that's my opinion.
Thank you, Sheriff. Very well. Questions from the board? Okay. There's no questions from the board. I will open this up for public comment. There are 2 cannabis items on the agenda today. I would ask that you address 922 in your comments rather than the taxation issue. And if you could queue up, it makes it go quicker. So come on up, sir.
Okay. I'm Richard Golan, District 5 resident, and I would like to respectfully ask the Board of Supervisors to retain this current provision for the background checks and the badges. Our previous speaker from, I believe it was the building department, did say that there had been some bad actors, and indeed I think there could be some in the future. And I think it's a matter of public safety. I think that we ordinary citizens would like to feel assured that we do not have any potential crime problems where we near where we live, work, or travel due to cannabis grow sites. And so I think it's a matter of public safety for us, and I think it's a matter of public safety for any of our government officials that may find a need to visit any of the grow sites, and it would be an extra assurance that they will not be ambushed or assaulted. So I ask you to retain this provision in the law.
Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Stewart, and I echo everything he just said, especially since Doug just said there was a 20% problem less than a year ago with severe, he didn't say severe, he said considerable problems. And to reduce it down to 2% within 6 months because of the industry that is kind of monitoring itself. What happens when those people all of a sudden don't have the requirements to have a badge initiation process go through, where people have to follow through who they are? I don't understand if it's now becoming less employees that they need to do. It costs less because we've streamlined the process. Why give it up? If it's doing a job, continue it. If you don't continue it, then the influx of bad actors will come in and things will go out. We'll have exactly what Sheriff DiBasilio said. There will be people with a bad element that show up. And those of us who live out in the hinterlands by ourselves, it's a considerable situation. I've been broken into a number of times because I'm out there where they live, and I hate it. I can't have my grandkids there. I mean, we've had the same conversation over and over and over, is that my quality of life has changed because this board has brought in marijuana industry. And I'm so against the whole thing. And it just keeps incrementally pushing back against what we all stood up here and said we didn't want. And you guys don't give a damn. We don't care about public protection, I just get so frustrated sometimes when people aren't being heard. It's like we have to have a huge room full of people before you even understand. We send you emails, and if things are going like status quo for a while, it gets quiet, and then it creeps back up. 20% of noncompliance? Thank you.
Speaker, she was standing up there before you.
So I think my name's Colin Breitenjack. I own Final Touch Wellness up off Fulton Road. I think what a lot of the issue was why people weren't going to reissue their badges was because we thought it was disappearing. So a lot of my employees, which are full-time, 90% of my employees live in this county. Their kids go to school here. Was that they thought the badges were going to go away. So nobody reissued. It happened to me too. So I think a lot of that percentage, what he's talking about was that a lot of people thought the badges were going away, so nobody came in to purchase the badges again. And then once everybody found out the badges stayed on, was when everybody came back in to get their badges again. So, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, Dina Morris. I would just like to say that I really wish you would not repeal this. My community in particular, you're all aware of, is finally back to a wonderful community where the kids can walk around and feel safe. Parents are letting the kids ride their horses around the community. And we have a very large commercial grow at one entrance of the community. And I would hate for us to go backwards again and people to feel unsafe because we have criminals coming into our area. I'd rather us be proactive rather than reactive. And by repealing this, it's going to put us in a state of reactive. Now we're going to become the experiment again to see if the badges really did help keep people safe and neighborhoods safe. I really hope that you reconsider if you're thinking about taking this away and keep it in place and keep our community safe. Copperopolis is only 30 minutes from Stockton, and we've had repeated gang member activity out there up until the last ordinance was passed. It finally calmed down. And I feel like if this gets repealed, we do have the probability of the gang members coming back up into our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker.
Hi, Board. My name is Elaine St. John, and I live in Copperopolis. I actually have a badge. I'm very proud of this badge. It was awarded to me by the Lyon County Sheriff, Brad Pope, when I helped him. I think this is a problem for the sheriffs if you look at what Prop 36 just did and how that could possibly impact the budget there. So, there could be saturation campaigns if we find that there are gang members that are coming up, the bad players. I work at Town Square, and I can't imagine, I'm a real estate agent as well. So I think this is going to affect my industry. If I'm at Town Square and there's some people that come over from the grow that is, at the entrance of the county, and, they look kind of disheveled, that could be a problem for us. It could be a safety problem, but it could also hurt our economy. So I really am in favor of keeping badges. The background checks is very important. We need to know who the good people are and who the bad people are. There's nothing wrong with that. And I know that there has been kind of a shift going toward being a little bit more lenient, but you're talking about drugs. That's what this is. And these are drug dealers. Some of them are good and some of them are bad. But, you can't rely on people being good unless you have a good safety net. And we need a good safety net. That's what we're asking for. Just protect us, keep our safety. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? If you'd like to speak, if you could queue up, that would make it faster. Vicki, please, come on.
Yes, Vicki Reinke, Calaveras County. I do want to just start off again, repeat, but there's new people that maybe forgot about this, but in 2016, the Calaveras County voters voted for Measure D. And I'm still wondering why this never affected what happened here in our county. But the vote was for, this is what it said: shall an initiative measure to regulate the cultivation of cannabis for commercial and non-commercial activities within authorized zones in the unincorporated areas of Calaveras County be adopted? That was asked of our voters. They voted no. They didn't want it. I don't know how then, because of this vote, we ever got marijuana in here, except that 3 supervisors decided we needed a marijuana business here because we were going to make so much money. So anyway, I wanted to remind people of this one as we move forward and keep talking about marijuana in our county. And you can see people came out today because they're baffled by all this too. Why do we keep bringing this up? Why are we streamlining this down to the point where we don't even have a cannabis control department coming to report anymore? We have our building department person who I know oversees that, but shouldn't we be calling it a cannabis control policy? And then there were a couple of things that were said about the 20% compliance. You know, we're 5 years into this business and people can't comply yet. It's just amazing to me. So again, that was kind of, and who, I would like to know what what was not being complied to and who were they that were not complying. And the illegals coming into work for the seasonal work, well, you know, maybe this is a good place for all these illegals that need homes to come and live in Calaveras County, which, again, the people are not happy with illegal immigration in the state of California. And again, you know, what has been said already, I 100% agree, and I'm not going to have to repeat that. But the badge ordinance was for safety. And I understand where Sheriff Whiting is coming from. If we all recall, the Sheriff's Department put together this wonderful program to check people who were coming into Calaveras County to grow, to work on marijuana, the drug marijuana. And it was taken away from them. And I remember being in the room realizing the sheriffs were not happy about that. They were just dissed. Oh, yeah, you don't need to be.
Vicki.
So,
Time.
oh, sorry. So anyway, I hope you keep that in mind.
Thank you. Mark, you have 3 minutes.
Morning, Board. Mark Bolger, Rimrock Farms. I'd like to echo the sentiment of a lot of people in the room. We're all concerned about public safety. You know, I've got a wife, young child, another one on the way. We all want our community to be safe. Cannabis farm workers that wake up before the crack of dawn and bust their butts all day are not the people that we need to worry about. I've got the complete faith in the Sheriff's Department that they're going to get the bad guys. People that are employed on these farms legally are not who we're worried about. Take that and set that to the side. The landscape's a lot different in our economy than it was 5 years ago, not just for cannabis. I'll try not to conflate this agenda item with the next, but you know, obviously we're looking at a huge price reduction. We're not looking at the margins that were there before. It's more akin to a conventional agricultural operation. And one thing that we as operators need to do is be efficient. And I am very proud that we employ as many locals as we possibly can, but as any agricultural producer knows, there's certain times of the year where you need to get people in there, get the crop planted, get the crop harvested, processed, and then they're on to the next thing. The process with the background check, it's cumbersome. I mean, it's obviously shown that it can be effective, but you know, the county's losing money on it. I believe I read from the staff report that it was 6,000 brought in, 20,000 spent. I mean, as a taxpayer and a fee payer for this program, that doesn't sit too well with me. I think that, you know, again, the retention rate in any business these days, and in my non-cannabis business, we see the same thing. If I had to go through a whole DOJ background check process for every person that was hired, and then in 30 days they decide they want to go somewhere else, it's very, very difficult. So I agree with the staff's report on this. I agree with the Division of Cannabis Control in the Sheriff's Department. I think that it served its purpose. It had its time and place. We're past that, and I definitely think that repealing it would be beneficial to the industry and the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker?
Chair Garamendi, members of the board, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. My name is Zach Trevon. I'm a local attorney. I've been working in this county for about 5-6 years now and currently represent about 7 different cannabis farms. Really, when we talk about cannabis regulation, we talk about a pragmatic decision to regulate and control an area of commerce that is ubiquitous throughout California. Cannabis was here in Calaveras County prior to the enactment of the regulations to control it and to derive a benefit from it and to take those financial benefits and allocate towards them enforcement to make the community safer. Where I'd commend the Division of Cannabis Control and your board has been the ability to modify ordinance that are no longer pragmatic and find solutions to maintain the viability of the cannabis industry as a legal going concern that contributes beneficially to the county. Now, 6 years down the line, this is an established program. I have farms who have been completely without any regulatory violations, and I've had farms that have had significant regulatory violations that we've had to work through, and not all of them have gone through that. There have been permits, clients that I represent, that have been revoked, and that is a testament to the manner of enforcement and the consistency that the Division of Cannabis Control has exhibited throughout this time that they've been in place here in the county. I'm from Stockton, born and raised. I have my office there. We are the most dangerous city in the United States on several rankings. We are also abound by agriculture. We have 0 cannabis farms, outdoor cannabis farms. Okay, I can tell you right now, the crime and the issues that we have in Stockton have 0 to do with the migrant labor that get up every day before the sun is up to go work an honest day and feed their families. There are no gang members coming up to work on cannabis farms for 8+ hours a day to come here and do business. So the same issues that we're experiencing with compliance and the same issues that the county is experiencing with enforcement, it's an ineffectual policy. These farms are now established. We've been able to weed out predominantly the bad actors here. This is an ineffectual provision in this ordinance, and I would support the repeal of this today for all of these reasons. It's losing money. It's an impediment to commerce. It's difficult to comply with, and it's difficult to enforce. It makes no sense to continue this. I appreciate your thoughtful consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Bert, sure. Come on down.
Okay. Good morning, board. So I'm trying to run a business, and this makes it way more difficult. And it's kind of feeding into the reputation that Calaveras has, so I think we should really get rid of it. I remember, I think Marita was still on the board when you guys directed staff the first time. Doug wasn't around, it was Greg. Said get rid of the badges. It wasn't working. It didn't matter. We have temporary employees. There's no point in background checking. Nobody does it to any normal business. We're basically normal businesses. We all want to have that. Just treat us like normal businesses. We're running businesses. This is like an onerous, ridiculous process. And and I agree with some people. I don't want to smell a bunch of weed in the town square because that's where I go to buy my meth. And so just can't be doing that. So. It's ridiculous. Everybody's just looking for whatever they want to say about it. They hate weed, so they're going to say whatever they can throw at us wall. But, it's costing the county money. It's costing me money. We're struggling. County's struggling. It's just ridiculous. Don't get rid of this thing. And it's been 4 years, I think, or 5 years since I first told staff to get rid of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Al?
Good morning, Board. Al Segala, Calaveras County Taxpayer Association. And I'd like to, one of the things our group does is support the Constitution. And we encourage everyone to learn about it. And because in that document is a solution to a lot of the problems that we have. The 5th and 14th Amendments specify and identify human rights. believe it or not. It's stated that life, liberty, and property. And then again in the 14th Amendment, life, liberty, and property. Can anyone doubt we now have a purpose for constitutional government and for the United States? It's to support life, liberty, and property. Does anybody have an argument against that? Well, maybe some, but I don't think it'll hold water very long. So, if we look at this ordinance, we have to look at the history of regulation in the United States. We had alcohol prohibition. And I drink wine, but I think that people learned because of the implementation of prohibition that it wasn't working and it was bringing about a worse result. It was creating an underground economy. Actually, probably created the mafia, for all I know. So we have a really complicated can of worms in front of us now. And we're trying to figure out what government can do to make it better. What government can do to make it better. Maybe we ought to revert back to basic responsibility to the Constitution and unwind ourselves from this enterprise. There's so many things already in place as far as to correct problems, like when they harvest the buds, there's ways to stop the odor. I mean, it doesn't take brain science for that. And as far as people coming in, we rather than try to detect their character with a badge or something, why not let the our already instituted law take place?
Al?
Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment in the room? Is there any online?
We have no online public comment.
Very well, I'll bring it back to the board. Questions?
With your permission, I'd like to answer a few of the questions that came forward.
Certainly.
Ultimately, the concern is how do we keep crime from happening? Well, the badge program doesn't prevent that because people who have badges can still commit crime. They can still violate health and safety regulations. And unwittingly, sometimes they do. Knowingly, sometimes they do. This industry is no different than any other industry. However, there's one exception to that, and that is that in your board's wisdom, you made it very, very easy to revoke permits for not complying with many different layers of regulation. And that's been used to great effect in the last year and a half. And I think that, and I will say once again, the good actors in the cannabis industry fully support what we're doing, which has been, since your board has delegated this authority to us, educate first, then enforce. And we've been educating for several years. The training wheels have come off. They made a great point. It's been 5 years. Correct. We have been educating for 5 years. We're now in enforcement mode. Everyone who knows the rules and wanted to be good actors, they're playing by the rules. If they don't know the rule, we give it to them. Now it is, you have 10 days or we revoke your license. Or we have a warrant, they secured cannabis, here's your code enforcement notice, here's your revocation, you can't grow in the county anymore. This is a working model. The enforcement tools we have for the rest of the ordinance are effective and they're fast. And they have worked in taking care of some pretty bad situations that you ask any grower that heard about it on the wind, they say, yeah, that made us look bad. We don't need that here. And it is working. And we will continue to enforce in that manner. The training wheels are off. this badge scenario didn't help with that. It was everything else your board did in the ordinance to make it effective enforcement. And we can stand behind that.
Thank you. George Stopper, why don't you lead us now?
Okay. Unfortunately, I get more than 3 minutes.
You can have as much time as you
Mr.
need.
Oliver, thank you for your work that you're doing. We've had many discussions. I've been here, whether on this side of the dais or the other side of the dais, since 2015. And I was solidly against the original urgency ordinance and how it was crafted because of the problems it caused. I thought there was a better way, and you brought it up. There is a better way, and we passed that, from my perspective, in 2019, 2020. But we passed that, and that filter has done us good when it comes to bringing in the good actors, the ones we're dealing with today. Doug, your scrutiny, you're very intelligent. I have to dial you back sometimes from my perspective because you start overthinking things and complicate them. And then sometimes, you dial it back after a minute and it's like we come to an agreement and, but that's a testament to you. You take your job seriously. You're very intelligent. Sometimes we can not go with a complicated equation and start using addition and subtraction. The sheriff, I appreciate the job they do. I was talking to a couple school officials and a deputy the other day, and the best job we can all do, even as a board, is, it says on the cars, protect and serve. Reacting to a crime is the sheriff's department's job. But if they're able to prevent a crime before it happens, they're doing their job correctly. And that was the thought we had in our minds when we brought forward this badge system, to give the tools. Because the board created, along with people that crafted this ordinance, the badge process, not the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department had input. We originally, during the urgency ordinance, over 1,400 applications were in. Not all were approved, but the volume was substantial. Of those, at the end, there's probably 400 plus in good standing, meaning that even if they weren't doing things right, the process hadn't gotten to them to tell them that they were no longer allowed when the ban was approved. Then we came forward with this ordinance now that we're dealing with, which through different filters and figuring out those that were willing to play the game properly and were in good standing, brought that potential number down right around 200, I believe below 200 potential areas, which fell within our EIR. This is a monetary drain. The owners of every cannabis farm by the state and our ordinance are still required, because they were required by the state, to get their background check. So the top person in the owner of each one of those organizations is still required to go through that, potentially putting in a position where they want to hire people that aren't going to steal from them. Prior to this, from 2017 to 2019, when the ban was in, when there was just bad actors out there working, I saw more headlines of people coming from out of the area to steal marijuana from illegal grows and people getting assaulted and guns being involved than I've seen since then, since we've brought back forward this. I see pragmatic was brought up. I agree with that. This is a pragmatic process. We're losing money to filter something that, like someone brought up, that the illegals are coming up to work. These people are coming up on work visas. And what else did you say, Doug? They're in the
They're
process of
seeking
gaining
legal status.
citizenship.
Right.
So they are the ones following the process. They aren't the ones that are coming across the border and seeking asylum.
Correct.
And not having that. So that's saying a tremendous amount. There's a difference. And these are people who are willing to, and if they screw up during that process, they lose their status. So I'm in support of moving forward on this. I have not seen the filter come up with any results that are saying that it's needed to the extent that we're using it in the last so many years. And as with anything in life, whether it's marijuana grow, whether it's a bus driver, whether it's, a politician, there's good and bad everywhere. And we all have to be alert and astute on those people. Thank you, Al. Life, liberty, and
Property.
are all on our mind. But part of that's a double-edged blade in my mind. It's not just an open door. The Jefferson movement always says, don't tread on me. Well, you know what? Part of don't tread on me is not letting the poop run off your property onto my property. So we do have to keep a certain amount of rules in place. But this one, I feel we have moved to a point where I feel comfortable enough to move beyond it at this time, unless I hear something different to change my mind coming up before we make the decision. Okay, Jack, that was more than 3 minutes.
That's fine. Other comments, questions? Someone's got to step up, or I'm going to move on.
I know last time this came to the board, I did vote in favor of keeping the badges. After going through another harvest season and hearing not just from staff, talking with the sheriff and the workers, it come to a realization how difficult it is for them to continue to operate and to recruit, to get workers. Outside of just having seasonal workers come from the valley, we have our own migrant population right here in this county with the vineyards and other commodities that of a workforce. And it is challenging right now with these badges for them to go back and forth between this commodity and the other commodities they're working for in this county. And they're having to go outside of the county to bring those dollars back to support the families that they are living here, whether we want to admit that or not. We do have that population. And listening to those individuals that are trying to also, outside of maybe being a bus driver, trying to get extra money, we're all struggling with paying gas at the tank. They want to get that extra income, and it's a challenge for them to go through the process because of the length that it takes. And I believe Folgers mentioned it, by the time they get through it, they've already found another job or they're not interested anymore because of the length. And so I will be supporting staff's recommendation based on the conversations that I've had with those individuals over the last couple months, because it is hurting those individuals right here in this county. I know that is not what individuals want to hear me say, but I've taken enough time, I feel, from April to now to learn and get that information and talk to individuals that I believe it needs to be, we need to make it easier to keep these businesses running and keeping those that want to stay here employed. I understand that they are working with other outfits outside, bringing them in from the Central Valley, but I don't believe they would be doing that if they did not have an easier time here to recruit those individuals and keep their workforce here locally with the current population that we have that is willing to do that job. So I, like Supervisor Stopper, will be supporting staff recommendation.
Thank you. If we could keep conversations in the audience down a little bit, that'd be appreciated. Supervisor Hubbard?
Thank you, Chair. I too am going to change my position on this after having had the time to talk to the Sheriff's Department, to Captain Sturm, and then with Mr. Oliver's position and staff report, and having been out to these grows and seeing these workforces and seeing the people that work 8 hours a day doing this type of work, I feel it is time to repeal this. So I will be voting to repeal. Thank you.
Supervisor Toffenelli?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, it's been a long time ago, but things haven't changed as far as what I'm looking out here in the audience. We still have on the left, and we still have on the right, which during all the time that this thing was going on was what happens. So even things have changed, they haven't. And I will not be supporting this. I will not be supporting this because of a couple of reasons. One is we still have people that are very afraid of what's going on. I understand not everybody's bad, it's not, but still we have the members of the public that we represent that do not feel safe. Myself, I have grows around my residential subdivision. And I hear from those people all the time. Some of them look right down on a couple of them. Some drive home past some of them, and they're still very afraid. That hasn't changed. I think when we hear about how well it's doing and how safe it is on these places and hear from these other supervisors, I think that's because of the badge system. It's working. Now you're going to eliminate it. Come back here in a year from now, you may not hear the same thing because it's been eliminated. Anybody can come and they hire anybody they want. At least it's showing that the badge system is working and at least keeps our constituents feeling safe. And that is part of our job, is to make sure that our constituents are safe and feel safe. Even the purpose and the intent of this ordinance itself specifically states under 0.10, the purpose of this chapter is to reduce certain health and safety risks to law enforcement, civil enforcement officials, and the public at large by preventing those individuals from owning or working at commercial cannabis businesses within Calaveras County who have a prior conviction or convictions of which demonstrate a productivity for violence or violent threats. It's in there. That's in there for a purpose, and I think the badge system is, because of that, is working, and it makes these people feel safe. And the people that I deal with that are by these grows, next to these grows, I hear it all the time because a lot of them, again, are in my district, are right next to a lot of residential housing, and they're still afraid. And I can't tell them I'm going to vote for this and show them that I'm not trying to represent them as a whole and trying to keep them safe. So I will not be supporting this.
Thank you. Hang on. I will ask the audience not to do the applause thing. If you feel like clapping, do the happy hands, but I expect there to be, no. You know, that's not necessary. We're going to continue on. I'd like to, I will be supporting this, excuse me, Gary. I will be supporting this because of your presentation as well as the endorsement of the sheriff on this. I want to just make a quick comment. You know, if you saw me on a Sunday, and you know, I'm an agriculturalist, if you saw me on a Sunday in Copper Square, you might find me undesirable coming into your community because I've been working all day. And so, you know, let's keep those comments, those of us who work in the dirt and grow things, Sometimes if you're going into a hardware store, you should not be told you're not welcome in Copper Square, because I don't think that's actually the case. With no further ado, I will ask for a motion on this item.
I'll move this item, sir.
Moved by Supervisor Stopper.
The director's recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Hubbard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Carries 4-1. Thank you. We'll move on to item 19.
Item 19, action item, building. 1, introduce and waive the first reading of an uncodified ordinance temporarily reducing the cannabis cultivation tax rates specified in County Code Section 3.56.050B1 through 3 by 60% through December 31st, 2027, as authorized by Section 3.56.070 and 2, authorized summary publication. Requires a 4/5 vote of the board.
Doug?
Good morning again. Round 2. This is an ordinance we've been bringing back yearly ever since the market took a turn with the cannabis prices. And we've been monitoring as best we can what those prices are locally. I will say that statewide information has always been kind of sketchy. You can get total tax count statewide. You can get total value of all cannabis statewide. But to really dig down, you have to work with the local growers and look at their receipts for their sales and really try to understand what's happening. And unfortunately, it varies a lot. But what we can determine based on the quality, the type, the processing, we're looking at between $250 to $400 per pound, which is still fluctuating and is down from last year, where we thought things were starting to come up and stabilize. It's dipping again. Now, we could argue that hey, markets rise and fall all the time, and that's fair to say. However, when we look at where the taxes originally started in 2020 with that $800 to $1,000 per pound, what we can look at in the industry is that as of now, it has never come up above 50% of its starting value, and that's been consistent. It's been below up to 50%, but never breaching that. So what we're looking at is what the other counties have been doing, and notably, they've been stabilizing at lower rates with their taxes. There was a lot of temporaries that have become permanent. I can see that Sonoma County permanently changed their tax. They did have a 2-year reduction, and then they permanently reduced it. Their current outdoor canopy is 69 cents a square foot. They started at $1, and they reduced that to 69 cents. Currently, what we're proposing is to carry over the 60% reduction that we have maintained throughout the last few years. I will say that this particular ordinance is unique because I have added that we extend this for 3 years. That was a department head decision to offer this up for discussion, because what we're seeing here is that we really don't know what's going to happen with the industry. We don't know what's going to happen if the federal government's going to move it out of a Class 1 narcotic. We don't know if interstate commerce is going to start, which is going to cause prices to fluctuate. And ultimately, if everyone else is stabilizing that we're aware of at a lower rate, a substantially lower rate in some cases, we may want to consider having more discussions about a permanent reduction to coincide with the permanent reduction in value. What I'm looking at here is if we extend this out 3 years and watch it, probably going to start seeing a market trend emerge. Looks like we're seeing it now, but just from my limited experience, I don't feel comfortable picking this back up to its original tax value. I think we're going to see a lot of licenses fold up and go home. So if there's any questions.
Supervisor Stopper?
Just one quick one before we get into the debate. So just say, for instance, it was extended for so many years, and at that time, we saw a change and fluctuation in the market that tended to be positive. At that time, could the board bring it back and change it then, regardless of how long it's been extended?
At any point within this ordinance, if there's a significant increase and your board wants to change the taxes, I'll be right back in front of you.
Yes, Supervisor Stopper, the ordinance allows the board to make any adjustments other than obviously to go above what the voters authorized.
Right, exactly. Okay, that's, I just wanted to be clarified that we aren't, if we make a decision, we aren't locking ourselves in on any point. If the market changes, then we can come back and adjust accordingly.
Correct. In fact, and if your board doesn't want me to bring this forward with 3 years, you could decide to have me bring it into the next meeting with, 1 year or 2 years, whatever your board wants to do. If you don't feel comfortable keeping it longer than a year, I'm happy to bring it back next year. It was a
Council
initiative on my part to bring it back for 3 years.
He said something to the point of he could bring it back to change it, but I think we could make being this is prior to first reading, being this is first reading, we could make that change right here and not have to have it brought back if we decided to. Right. Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Supervisor Hubbard,
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't have any comment.
any other questions before we go to public comment? All right, we'll go to public comment. Everybody knows the drill, 3 minutes. Come on up. And if you guys queue up, it goes quicker.
Again, I'm Richard Golan, District 5 resident. And let's say in the last few years in Calaveras County, we've had a lot of people that have been adversely affected by rising prices and other economic woes. But the marijuana growers have been singled out for a tax cut. Nobody else that I know of, which I believe creates kind of a double standard in taxation. Furthermore, when this commercial marijuana ordinance was passed, it was promoted and passed on the idea and sold to the public on the idea that it would create a huge tax windfall for the county and that the illegal growers would simply go away and we would have less crime. None of that happened. I also remember that when Mr. Stopper voted for this ordinance, he told us that if it didn't work out the way it was expected, that he would reconsider and it could be repealed. That did not happen either. And things have not worked out for the benefit of the common people. So I am now asking Mr. Stopper and the other supervisors to make good on your promises. Either collect the big taxes or repeal the ordinance, the commercial marijuana ordinance. I think that's what needs to be done. Thank you.
Your next speaker.
My name's Karen Shreve. I think it might be a good idea for y'all to hire a couple of single moms to figure out how to balance a budget. I think all of these taxes that you're collecting from individuals and individual businesses in Calaveras County would be pretty well served with a tax break. A lot of tax breaks. Everybody. How about the real estate people? I mean, they've taken big hits this last couple of years. Have they gotten any tax breaks? Furthermore, where are you going to replace the money from? If you give these guys a tax break, that means that money's not coming into your budget. Where are you going to replace that from? Where's it coming from? Let's balance some budgets. Thank you.
Sir.
Lance Ranke from Angels Camp. It's just real sad that we're back here in this stage We were promised all of this money. We were going to get $11 million. Jack remembers that. There are two members of the board here that were part of that discussion at the time when this ordinance was approved. We want the tax money. We do not want to see it reduced. Why should it be reduced? Right now, the county is not taking in enough money to even support all of the activities that are needed to regulate this business. So you're just digging yourself more in a hole. If they can't make the money, they just need to go out of business, just like anyone else. That's what happens. Things change. You can't make it in the business, you go out of business. You don't get a reduction in tax. I've never gotten a reduction in tax in my life. I'm still paying huge amounts of money on property tax. Why can't that be reduced for me?
Easy.
So I oppose this. I hope my representative, Amanda, you will oppose this. That's my request. Thank you.
Ms. Weatherby?
Aurora Weatherby, District 5. I brought with me an article today that has a direct bearing on taxes on cannabis owed to the state of California. You people have given the cannabis people 60% off of their income taxes. Is that correct? And it's for over 3 years, and now you want an additional 2 years? Sorry, enough is enough. We, as taxpayers, get charged 2% every year by Jarvis Gann. My taxes when I first bought my house 14 years ago was like $1,500 a year, and now it's well over $2,300 a year. Related to the taxes owed to the state of California, this has to do with a lot of the cannabis dispensaries going out of business for various reasons. Everything from the badging process, which you just repealed, and the closure of many cannabis shops. The latest one is called Ease Management. And what it comes down to is this. The crops were once valued at over $700 million for the state of California from cannabis tax. And what do we have owing to the state of California? $732 million, probably never collectible, because they gotten the money and ran. So how are we, a little county, to keep giving these people 60% tax cuts? We can't. How much do they owe now? How much do any of the growers owe now, like these people here? $732 million worth. There's probably never going to be collected. These people have had 5 years to make their visits profitable, and they haven't made it in that time. They're not going to make it. I'm having a terrible time at 83 years old trying to pay my taxes because they keep going up 2% every year, and you turn around and you give these people 60% off. Now, I can be put out of my home because I can no longer pay my taxes, and you're giving these people 60% after 5 years and want 2 more years of a 60% break? No, that's not fair to anyone my age or anybody that is a senior younger than I am. $732 million owed to the state of California that they're probably never going to collect.
Thank you very much, Ms. Weatherby.
Thank you.
Ms. St. John?
Hi, Elaine St. John. I heard Mr. Oliver say that this business is like every other business. That's a direct quote. Well, I don't see any other businesses asking for a tax break. I really don't. And I'm having a hard time. I'm a real estate agent. We're not making any money. The economy's bad. I would love a tax break too. I mean, we all want free money, but it's not possible. We have to have a budget. And I have friends that work in the dirt. Don Christopher from Christopher Ranch Garlic. He works in the dirt. He's my brother-in-law. I also have a rice farmer. I've never been personally called out by a supervisor before. That was bad. That was really very bad. But anyway, I know you all made up your mind, and we're here anyway, just giving us our First Amendment rights, and I hope you will not give them the tax break because everyone's suffering. Thank you.
Jennifer, Vicki, which one of you wants to go next?
Vicki Ranke, Calaveras County. I don't know where to begin. I think we've said this many times about what's going on with this information. So one of the things I'm here to do is to remind people of the past. Measure G was our measure for the marijuana tax, to change Measure C so it would be easier to collect taxes from the growers. And it was a canopy tax. And the initiative that was on the ballot said establishing maximum cannabis activities tax rates not to exceed $7 per square foot for canopies. So we never had a $7 tax. It started at $2. When the people read this, they thought, wow, we're going to get $7 a square foot. No, it's never been. And then what do you guys do? You make it 80 cents a square foot by reducing it 60%. The people are so tired of being lied to by government. They're tired of saying, oh, this is what we're going to do. And it gets changed. And so, you know what? I'm sorry, but it's true. They need to pay their taxes. They need to pay the money they promised us when we were all in discussion. Oh, we're going to be able to pay you. Sorry that the price of marijuana went down. Oh, well, you need to evaluate your business. And if you can't make it, you go out of business. And sadly, it's happening all over California, but I don't feel sorry because I don't believe in Calaveras County being a product for marijuana. Just to let you know, there was a report put out by it was a 2023 Agriculture Crop Livestock Report, was out recently on the Board of Supervisors, and they showed an estimated product value of the marijuana here at $29,877,500. Oh, and they can't afford to pay their taxes? So, you know, we are tired of being the wool pulled over our eyes, made to believe that we're stupid, that we don't get it, and it's true. We're all struggling, so please do not extend this tax break. Thank you.
Ms. Smith?
Morning, Board. Jennifer Smith. I'm going to say this, and I've said it before. I think the biggest problem we have is that we're calling this a tax. It is a business. It is a fee to operate. It is not a tax, and we can't call it a fee because we know government cannot make more money on fees than it is to regulate a program, a building permit, or whatever it is. So to sit up here and have to listen to people insult us and say that we're getting a reduction in taxes, we pay our property taxes, we pay unsecured business taxes, we pay employment taxes, we pay sales taxes. Every input that goes into our farms is paid at retail, and sales tax is paid on that. We pay employment taxes, we pay income taxes. My income taxes last year were $375,000. My sales tax to this county was over $280,000. This has to stop. And maybe the solution is we get rid of this tax altogether and we go to a fee program and charge us the fee it costs to regulate the program. Because that is the actual reason we even have this tax. And it's changing in every county. When we first started this program, we're getting $1,200 a pound. We're now lucky if we get $150 a pound. That's an 85% reduction in wholesale receipts. That's not profit. Okay, we're on the trim side, we were at $100 a pound. We're at $5 a pound. That's a 95% reduction in wholesale receipts. That doesn't take into account our cost of goods. That doesn't take into account the employment that we put into it. That is our gross revenue per pound, okay? We're all paying increased taxes. We're all paying, the cost of food isn't cheaper for me because because I'm a cannabis farmer. Like, let's get rid of this word tax and let's start talking apples to apples. Thank you.
Mr. Bolger, excuse me, ma'am, would you like to come on up?
She was just being very polite. Hello again, board. Mark Bolger, Rimrock Farms. Well, I think the people have spoken. I think we've got a groundswell effort here to reduce, eliminate all taxes in Calaveras County, the state of California, and the United States of America. You with me, Al? Anyway, so coming back to reality here, yeah, none of us want to pay any of those taxes, but cannabis farms pay an excise tax. I'm not going to sit here and bore you guys with the minutia of cannabis market commodity pricing. The staff report broke it down pretty well. Unfortunately, prices have dipped even since that staff report, I'm sure, was compiled. Right now, it's not really even a price issue. It's an alleviation issue. Product is just not moving. Anyone that's an agricultural producer can tell you this is the natural cycle of things. Prices eke up a little bit. Everyone pushes their chips back on the table. Prices crash again. Maybe interstate commerce is going to fix that. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. What I can tell you right now is we're basically operating at cost of production or a slight loss, maybe a slight profit if you've got more direct to retail or if you're vertically integrated. That's not the majority of the cannabis industry in Calaveras County. No one here is asking for anything special. Staff report shows statewide there's been reductions across the board. All we're asking is to be competitive. And I would argue that we've been at a slight disadvantage the last several years when you look at reductions in other counties. But hey, 60% is better than nothing. When it comes to the 3-year extension, hey, I don't know if anyone wants to keep coming here every November and doing this song and dance. I mean, I certainly don't want to come here every year and sing for my supper, but that's up for you guys. And it sounds like it could be revisited at any moment. So, yeah, I think at this point, this tax reduction's kept a lot of businesses going. And for the folks in this community that want us to fail, hope we fail, hey, that's a lot of families, that's a lot of jobs, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. My competitors, myself, other counties. I downright think it's disgusting that people want to see people fail, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Birch, Jennifer, one of you's got to come up.
I have a question about the whole day, this whole agenda today. It was about money and about Evergreen. We're spending money at Evergreen to be able to provide a broader spectrum of different counties and how much the infrastructure is going to be given either increases or make a parity with everybody else. In all the years that we've been talking about this, we've asked for a nexus report of everything, every county agency, every hospital. We've asked to find out what's the bottom line cost for marijuana industry being here with overdoses, with law enforcement, with CHP, with everything. And we've never gotten the answers. I'm sure you guys have gotten documents behind the scenes of what's really the bottom line cost. And then to say that to keep a business here that doesn't follow through with their promises of how much they're going to, the revenue, which is understandable. I mean, tomatoes cost more today than they did yesterday. Pot costs less today than it did yesterday. So that's just the way the ball, bounces. But it just doesn't seem fair to everyone else is to give someone a reduction in a cost that they agreed to be able to start the business here. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Birch.
Good morning again. Sorry, I had to make a quick run to Copper. I would have stayed around for God's win. Morning to you. Good morning. I was really surprised to hear the Republican Central Committee say that we need to put an excise tax on retirees and real estate and everything else. It's really surprising. I never would have thought I'd hear that from them. But we're very, we we want to be treated like a normal industry, and we're not. We're the only ones paying this excise tax on, our activity. Our industry is suffering. If we were doing it like on a linear kind of trajectory, you guys would have given us like a 1% tax now based on how the prices used to be. And I think you should do that. I think we shouldn't just reduce this thing. We should go down to zero for a little bit and try and incubate this industry. If we want economic growth, maybe want to treat it like normal business. Like we're not excising your cows, Jack. We're not excising your museum, Martin. Steel's not getting a special tax either, Gary. So it seems, you can shear the sheep a bunch of times, but you can only eat that lamb once. And I would just urge you guys to increase it beyond 60. Take 5 years so we don't have to keep coming back talking at you. You don't have to hear how much everybody in certain parts of the county hate marijuana and wish it never was here. And they're never going to have a constructive thing to add to this conversation. It would be cool not to come and do this all the time. So I'd urge you guys to do it for a long time. Go bigger than 60. We're hurting. A lot of counties are trying to incubate the industry. We employ a lot of people. We don't do crime. We don't do all this other stuff. Just be helpful for us. Be helpful for my family, my kids, my co-workers, my employees. Be helpful for the people that hate us too. We could spend more, save more. So please reduce or eliminate.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment in the room?
I just want to say one thing. Karen Shreve again, District 2, by the way. We don't hate you guys.
If you could
For
address.
crying out loud,
Excuse
we're
me,
glad
ma'am.
that you're producing.
Ma'am, if you could
I'm
address
sorry.
the board.
We don't hate those guys. We don't. We don't. We wish that they would find businesses that would help us. If it's not working for them in cannabis, find another crop. We want them here. We want commerce here. We want things to grow in Calaveras County. We want our economy to grow. If it's not working for cannabis, do something else. Maybe you get a tax break. Thank you.
Zach?
Chair Garamendi, members of the board, again, Zach Travon, thank you for the time. I think everyone should keep in mind, before we had a cannabis tax here in Calaveras, there was no dollars coming in from legal cannabis businesses. There was only money going out to enforce against illegal cannabis businesses. At that time, you've heard it here before, and I'll say it again, the price was hovering between $1,000 and $1,200 a pound. We've now lost over 66% of that value, and you're seeing an attrition rate statewide amongst cannabis licensees, where at the peak we had over 9,000 cannabis licenses statewide. Now that's about 5,000 cannabis licenses statewide. You're seeing cities and counties across the state react to those market conditions to maintain the viability of their legal industry. Because without the legal industry, all we are left with is illegal operations that comply with no regulations, they follow no laws, they have no regard for their fellow community members, and they contribute nothing to the local economy. And so, again, as part of a pragmatic policy solution to adjust with these market conditions in order to maintain the viability of this multi-million-dollar source of revenue here in the county from legal tax-paying businesses, again, the same businesses and the same people that pay all of the same taxes that traditional businesses and individuals pay. This is an additional special tax based on an additional special commercial activity. And it is critical to maintain the viability of this legal industry here in California that we extend this tax reduction. I'm here in full support of staff's recommendation in this regard. I appreciate your thoughtful consideration on this. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Further comment in the room? Is there any comment online?
We have no online public comment.
Very well, I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion. Any comments? Ben, you're leading us off with that.
There's quite a few things brought up. I heard the income tax reduction. This is not an income tax. This is an excise tax. The state has no badging system. They do background checks on owners. There's no badge provided for that. So that's neither here nor there. something that was brought up, and I'm glad it was, the agricultural report, the agricultural commodities valued at $29,877,000 for marijuana within Calaveras County. At the same time, $2 million that very same year, $2.8 million taxes, excise tax were collected from that as that one sole excise tax. That's 9.3% of the total commodity. That's almost 10%. Now, that's on top of them paying their gross receipts sales taxes. That's on top of them paying the 100% of what, and 2% going up every year on their assessed taxes for the buildings and everything they own, on top of their income tax spending, everything. So every business in Calaveras County, when they pay their taxes that they think should be reduced, I think my taxes should be reduced, but I can't reduce them, and I wouldn't do them just for me. But at that point, these business owners are paying everything you do, going up the same rate you do, plus another 9.3% on gross. So, no, it's 9.3%. It is correct. Now we passed this as a board to go out to the vote of the people. The people voted on it. Since we've had this forward, because people are like, follow up and actually collect the money, we've collected a total of $12,923,069 from this industry on the excise tax alone. I would like to hear about one business within that time, or within the last decade for that matter, that has paid that much in taxes to Calaveras County, separate from all the other normal taxes. So none. So this here is proof of money collected in benefit for the people in Calaveras County, which in part are holding up different departments when other things go down. Nothing against you, Mr. Oliver. For one, you benefit from this because building in the county across the state has gone down, and you're not benefiting from the permit fees for your department. So this has helped to backfill in some of that because it's general fund money on that almost $13 million within the last 4 years. So from my train of thought, the Indians had it right. When they hunted the buffalo, they only took what they needed. And then my ancestors came in and they annihilated the herd. And then we didn't have any buffalo around. I'm not going to kill the herd off so I can feed everyone for one day and not have anything in the future. I think that we need to be pragmatic moving forward and move with the market when it comes to this excise tax. The rest is set in stone, and they will pay their full amount as put forward. That's where I stand on this.
Other comments from the board? All right. Any comments online? We already checked online. Is there a motion?
Can I?
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I voted for this last time, and it was a couple of reasons why I did vote for this last time. One of it was we did not know at the time what the state was going to do with their budget. We looked like we could have some big cuts to the county, which they had done in the past. And I felt that because of the building department's budget at the time, building has slowed down, that it was needed in order to continue and not have drastic cuts. So that's the reasons why I voted for it the last time. And some of the other comments, I'm not going to vote for it this time because I think it's the people voted on it. They haven't got what they voted on since it was voted in. But I gotta say, when it's talked about other businesses don't pay taxes like this, they would if the people voted for it. If an initiative came onto the ballot and they said, I'm in the steel industry, that every pound of steel needs to be taxed $1 that you use, then I would be paying $1 for every tax that I use, every pound that I use of steel. So that's what the people voted on. That's what the people in Calaveras County felt that they wanted, and that's why it's here. We wouldn't be sitting here addressing it if it failed, but it didn't fail. So the only way to reduce that, to go back to that, is put another initiative on the ballot that says to repeal it.
That's right.
So we are where we are, and that's what we're supposed to be upholding is what it is, and we've been trying to give a break to this business for the last 5 years, and we have. But at some point, we say, hey, we need to go to what was actually voted on and where people think we should be. So I can't support this.
All right. Bring it back. Are there any further comments or a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to introduce and waive first reading of an uncodified ordinance temporarily reducing the cannabis cultivation tax rate specified in County Code Section 3.56050B 1-3 by 60% through December 31st, 2027, as authorized by Section 3.56.070 and authorized summary publication. And you all know this takes a 4/5 vote.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Supervisor Stopper, second by Supervisor Hubbard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Carries 4-1.